Today, it's movie recap time for Adopt a Highway, a drama movie released in 2019. The story centers around Russell Millings, a prisoner who has been in jail for 20 long years. Back then, California had a policy of strikes that would imprison citizens for a long time after 3 felonies. Russell fell into this category after getting caught with some herbs. One day, a prison guard interrupts his thoughts, informing him that it's his release day. Excited, Russell packs his belongings, including a piece of newspaper from his prison cell. Russell is given new clothes to change into and completes some paperwork before leaving the prison. Soon after, it is revealed that Russell found a job at a diner and a place to live at a local motel. Having been in prison for over 2 decades, he's not familiar with modern technology like emails, smartphones, or the internet. During the evenings, the man usually enjoys simple meals and watches TV in his room. The following day, Russell visits an officer, who explains that his parole will be satisfied in a few months. Also, he is expected to deliver reports via email instead of in person. This means he won't be closely monitored anymore, finally giving him some decent freedom. Russell feels confused about the email part, but the officer says he has to figure that out. Later, Russell goes to an empty internet cafe. A helpful young man assists him in performing basic computer tasks. The man even takes a picture with Russell, saying it's rare to meet someone like him. With his help, Russell finds an article about his father's passing due to a heart attack in 2001. Russell gets carried away with the search and shows up late at work, so his supervisor reprimands him. After finishing his work, Russell decides to visit an amusement park to relive some youthful moments and enjoy playing fun games. However, his joy doesn't last very long since he has to return to work the next day. Later, Russell goes back to the internet cafe. When he gets there, the store clerk makes fun of him for not having a phone or an email address. He jokingly asks Russell if he was in prison, and the man confirms it. The kid's attitude changes completely when he learns Russell actually spent 20 years in there, simply for holding 1 ounce of grass. In a surprising turn, the kid offers to help Russell create an email account. During his night shift at the diner, Russell agrees to close the place and receives the key from his supervisor, who leaves right away. Russell continues to clean the diner and soon steps outside to dispose of the trash. To his surprise, he hears the sound of a crying baby somewhere nearby. After following the sound, he discovers that the noise is coming from a dumpster. To his astonishment, he finds an adorable little baby girl abandoned there. Russell rescues the baby from the dumpster and brings her into the diner. A note attached to her reveals her name is Ella. Russell thinks of calling an emergency number but quickly realizes that the diner's office is already closed. Left with no other option, he decides to take Ella to where he lives. As he puts the girl on his bed, she begins crying. Russell struggles but eventually finds a way to entertain her, and the girl falls asleep. He then calls 911 to report Ella, but changes his mind as soon as someone answers. Not long after, some police officers go to his place to investigate the call placed earlier. They hear a crying baby in the background but assume Russell is the father. One of the officers friendly advises him to give the baby a tummy massage to stop the crying. The next day, Ella keeps crying, and Russell feeds her some milk cream. Soon after, the man goes to a nearby store to get some stuff for Ella. Russell has a hard time finding what he needs, so an employee takes him to the section where milk for infants is found. When the employee asks him if his wife breastfeeds the baby, Russell says no and leaves right away. Running home to see Ella, he accidentally drops most of the purchased groceries. Luckily, he finds Ella sleeping profusely. After learning how to use search engines online, Russell goes to the internet cafe and researches whether it's legal to keep a found baby. He quickly discovers that one should inform the authorities immediately upon finding a baby. Russell learns that keeping the baby could even lead to an association with kidnapping. After his online search, it looks like Russell decided to keep his mouth shut and stay with Ella. After bathing the baby, the man has an idea and takes her to the beach. The pair spends the whole day by the ocean, admiring the view and walking on the wet sand.
I wonder what your favorite animal is.
Later that day, upon returning home, Russell is reckless, and Ella falls from the bed, slightly injuring herself. Russell becomes unsettled and apologizes to her. The following day, Russell takes Ella to the hospital. Finally deciding to tell the truth, he informs a hospital employee that he found Ella in a dumpster. The employee promptly reports the situation to the police and child welfare. Shortly after, the authorities arrive and ask him a series of questions. Unfortunately, Russell has to give her up, so Ella will be taken away to foster care. Despite the short amount of time spent together, It is evident that Russell grew attached to Ella. He truthfully answers all their questions and shares everything he remembers. One of the officers sympathizes with him, handing him her card in case he recalls any additional information. The following day, Russell goes to work as if everything is fine. Suddenly, while he's immersed in his tasks, a pair of officers and his supervisor approach him. They ask him to come out to talk for a bit. The officers request to see the dumpster where the baby was found. He tells them everything but lies about the timing of the discovery. The officers, having already spoken to the diner's manager, are aware that Milling didn't work the previous days and question his word. They immediately bring up his ongoing parole request and hint that he is a suspect in kidnapping the baby girl. As soon as the officers leave, his supervisor fires him and asks for the diner keys back, creating an awkward situation. Overwhelmed, Russell gathers his belongings from the motel and heads to a bus station. He then buys a ticket to go back to his hometown of Casper, Wyoming. On his way, Russell becomes lost in his thoughts and shows signs that he misses Ella. He fondly remembers her after looking at a deck card she had bitten. At a bus stop, he meets a girl who is upset after thinking she had lost her ticket. Sympathizing with her, the man hands her a napkin to wipe her tears. Some time later, the bus stops again, and Russell goes to a store to get some food for himself. Since he doesn't have enough money to buy everything he wants, he puts a bag of chips back where he took it. When he gets back on the bus, the blonde girl from earlier approaches him with the bag of chips to thank him for his earlier gesture. Unexpectedly, he chokes on the bread he's having, and the girl helps him out. After the incident, they form a bond and get along. Russell offers her a mustard mayo sandwich, and the woman enjoys it. They share their food with each other and have a good time getting to know each other. As they introduce themselves, we learn that the woman is called Diane. She does most of the talking and talks about herself. Russell, on the other hand, listens carefully and acts awkwardly around her. Even though he does not say much, Diane seems to like him. As they reach Denver, it's time for Diane to get off the bus. She shares her brother's cafe address and tells him to stop by if he's ever in town. They shake hands, and Russell continues his journey. He eventually gets to Casper and sleeps by the cemetery gate at night. Russell wakes up the next morning and immediately heads to visit his parents' graves. He sits with them and expresses deep gratitude, saying he misses them badly. Russell removes some of the leaves from the grave and promises to turn his life around. He then lies down next to his late parents and rests for a while, recalling some of the happy memories they shared together. Shortly after, Russell heads to the bank where his father used to have an account. He tells the employee that there's a deposit box there that belongs to him. When the man asks to see the keys, Russell promptly shows them around his neck. It turns out his father gave him those keys a long time before. However, the man thinks he's just a homeless person who happened to find the deposit key. The employee shares his impressions with his manager, who goes to talk to Russell. After checking his ID, the manager deeply apologizes for any misunderstandings, revealing that his father was a very valuable customer to them. Shortly after, an employee takes Russell to the secure area and gives him some privacy. All alone, Russell unlocks the deposit box. Initially, it appears to be completely empty, but he eventually finds a heartfelt letter from his dad. In the note, his father expresses love and says he's sorry about the bad hand that life dealt him. He proceeds to mention the highly valuable stamp collection he acquired throughout his life, a major hobby for him. This surprise brings great joy to Russell, who fondly remembers the stamps from his childhood. Finally, his dad requests that he take care of himself and instructs him on how to open a storage unit nearby. Russell wastes no time and heads straight to the storage unit. When he gets there, the man finds a neatly organized collection of stamps. The sight fills him with joy, and tears well up in his eyes. A few months later, Russell goes to the Department of Family and Child Services and sees the woman responsible for finding Ella a foster home. He had intentions of meeting Ella, but the lady informs him that he can't do it at the moment. He also expresses his desire to adopt the girl, but his request is denied right away by the woman. To her dismay, Russell doesn't stop there. He hands an envelope to the officer, asking her to give it to Ella on her 18th birthday. When questioned about why it needs to be on her 18th birthday, Russell explains that it's simply the way the trust was set up. This would make sure Ella gets the assets he left for her, ready to handle them as an adult. This demonstrates his willingness to embrace her as family, completely surprising the officer. The movie ends with Russell heading to a bus stop, using a compass to decide his next adventure. Thanks for watching. If you like our content, please like the video and don't forget to subscribe.